Let's talk about another fun-filled and fancy document that we have referred to many, many times. Not that one. That one's going to come up. Let's do this one. The additional provisions addendum. This board document is the one that you folks, it's like the redheaded stepchild. You can't remember its name. You can't remember what it does, right? It just is all kinds of hurt feelings because everybody just doesn't even remember this thing. The additional provisions addendum is an addendum. Folks, remember, an addendum is used as a supplement to the contract at the time you're sending the offer. And that's exactly what this is used for. It does 6 very specific things. Number 1 is the expiration of offer that we have talked about time and time again. If you want to put an expiration of offer on this thing, this is how you would do it. There is no place in the Form 2T to put an expiration of offer. So this is where you set the self-destruct. If you have not accepted it unconditionally before this date and time, it's dead. Nothing else we need to do. But remember, if you send an expiration of like 4 days and say you have to answer by 8 p.m. on day 4, how long do you have to wait to revoke your offer?
Anytime before they accept it.
There you go. Anytime prior to that unconditional acceptance. Just because you put this expiration doesn't mean you have to wait that long before you can take the offer back. Folks, the other things that this does is a lot of oddly specific things. And so number 2 is dealing with septic system installation modification. In other words, as part of the buyer's due diligence, buyer intends to obtain an improvement permit or written evaluation from the county health department for either a conventional or other type of septic system, right, ground absorbage sewage system for a however many bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, whatever home. Except for the cost for clearing the property, all costs and expenses of obtaining such permit or written evaluation shall be borne by the buyer unless otherwise agreed. Seller shall be responsible for clearing that portion of the property required by the county to perform its tests and or inspections by no later than. So it's so specific. Talking about, when does the clearing have to be done for us to do the evaluation for septic? I've never used this. This would be for, if you were having a home built, or if a system had failed and you needed to look at getting a secondary system or something like that. Rental income investment property. This is if you're buying a property that is subject to a long-term lease or a property that has multiple units. This basically just outlines what date and time the seller needs to deliver us all outlines of leases, whether they be written or oral, so we know exactly what we have in place right now as the new landlord. It also stipulates if they are going to transfer the pet deposits to us or not. They have to transfer the security deposits because those are escrow monies, but the pet deposits that are typically non-refundable, it says, are those going to be transferred to the new owner or not? Here is where you put in those agreed upon repairs and improvements as part of initial contract formation. You need to be aware of this because, as you might imagine, it is a lot harder to get a seller to agree to do repairs when you got $10,000 in due diligence on the line. But if there's something that you know that you want done from the word go and they've been on the market for 3 weeks, you may be able to get them to agree to it to get under contract. So this is how you would do it, regardless of whether you use the additional provisions addendum and ask for repairs as part of initial contract formation, or if you use the DDRA and ask for repairs as part of your due diligence period. Both have to be completed prior to settlement in a good and workmanlike manner. What you got, Jim?
Can you review items that would be typically all right to list here and things that wouldn't be?
There is no limitation to what you can put here, but to give you an example, if you knew that the roof was old, you may ask for them to replace the roof. If you knew that the fence was missing a segment and it was important to you, you may ask for them to replace, a segment missing on a fence. If you knew that there was a hole in the wall, you may ask for that to be repaired. I don't know if I told y'all this story or not. When we were talking about the tree house, I normally tell a story. I had clients buying a house, I think I told y'all this, in Wake Forest, and it had the world's worstly terribly constructed bunk bed, and it was like drilled into the wall, and it was painted black, and the room was hot pink. So I asked the sellers, to remove it, patch the holes, and repaint the room a different color. You can ask for whatever you want here. Doesn't mean they're going to agree to it, but if you wanted to ask them to build a 2-car detached garage, you could ask for it. That's just probably going to be a no for most people, right? Was there anything specific that you were looking for?
No, I was just, I had never heard anyone discuss the limitations of this. So.
There are none. If they agree to it, they have to do it. Yeah. What you got, Kat?
Okay, sorry, I came back late, so I kind of missed number one. Is there like a certain, did you say, is it like 5 p.m. that's like a normal?
No, on the expiration of offer, you can put whatever you want. I mean, that's where you can say, 8 p.m. on this date and time. You could say 6 a.m. on this date and time. Just make it practical. But this is a time is of the essence thing. So whatever date and time you put, if it hits that time, this offer dies, right? Bar none. It can't be accepted anymore. So if you wanted to send a new one, you would have to send a counter offer, right? Or they would have to send you a new offer.
You can counter that as well. So that happened in my listing that I had. The buyer put the expiration of offer, and it was a time that really was not going to be possible for my clients to, in any way, shape, or form, communicate and really discuss it because of what their schedule looked like at that point. So I went back to the buyer agent and asked if there was any extension of that, and I told them the situation, and she extended it. It wasn't as long as we wanted. We were asking for just 24 hours, and she extended it like, I think, 14 hours or 12 hours or something like that. But it did at least give my clients a little bit of time to discuss.
So she actually went in, redrafted it, signed it, and then sent you a new one.
Yes.
So you basically rejected it, told her what would be favorable, and then they redrafted it and they sent you a new offer.
Yes.
Because if you counter this, you've killed it, and it's kind of a moot point at that point, right? But what you had them renegotiate it and send you a new one that could sit there and be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeebus. Yeah. Does that make sense, Kat?
Yes. And then second question. So, I think I went and spoke to another agent. I think she said she put on the additional provisions addendum requesting that the house would be professionally cleaned. Is that where you would put it?
Absolutely. Yep. House to be professionally cleaned by Molly maids prior to closing, right? Or whoever. Just stipulate, be very clear, right? Because professionally clean can be subjective. Find a company and say this person, right? Or, give details. Make sure that you're very specific. But yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where you'd put it.
Okay.
Jays. So Jamima, is your hand just up from before? Yeah. The last two things on here, yet again, oddly specific. Remember when we looked at the offer to purchase in contract form 2T, it said, is there a manufactured home or not? And so when there's a manufactured home, regardless of whether it's been converted to real property or not, or if it's still personal property, you need to come in here and you need to say, oh yeah, there's a manufactured home. And if you know the VIN numbers, put them in here. And if you don't know the VIN numbers, you need to describe it and be as clear and concise as possible. In other words, if it's a cutesy tootsy little bright yellow beach manufactured home, say that, right? The cutesy tootsy bright yellow beach manufactured home with, the flower bushes around the outside. But commercially, if you're buying, 120 acres and it's coming with, an older property, you put that you want the dirty, dingy, doo-doo brown manufactured home built in the 1970s as the family of rabid possums living inside there, right? Be as clear as you possibly can, and you make sure that there is no room for interpretation. They know exactly which manufactured home you want. By the way, just so you all are aware, I use that joke several times, and it's kind of like evolved. Because I said possums one time and somebody chimes in, possums are a vector species, they can't get rabies. And I'm like, well damn, now I have to change the joke to raccoons. So a lot of times I'll do raccoons, but then another student said, actually, they can get rabies, it's just very rare. And I'm like, well great, I can move back to possums. So just so you know, that joke has evolved and then devolved and then evolved again, because sometimes it's possums, sometimes it's raccoons, depending on technicalities and students' proclivity for nature facts,
So if it's converted and if it's converted to real property, you still need to put.
I would, just so there's no confusion.
Okay.
Yep.
Even if it's like bricked up and all that stuff,
I would.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. Because when you look at the, I don't think I pulled it up, but when you look at the 2T, it says, is there a manufactured home? It doesn't say that's been converted or not converted. It just says, is there a manufactured home as part of this? And it's either yes or no. And if it says yes, then it says, we'll consider attaching this thing. Yeah, I would. Yeah, it is always better to be safe than sorry. Last thing, pool and spa inspection, folks. We can all agree that you're buying homes throughout the year, and sometimes your client is buying a home with a pool or a spa that has been shut down for the season. But it's still probably a good idea to inspect it. And so this just talks about who, right? All of the costs associated with any necessary re-winterizing of the pool and spa following inspection shall be the responsibility of the seller or buyer. We can negotiate who's going to be responsible for the costs associated with re-winterizing, these things. Because it says any costs associated with putting the pool and spa in operable condition so that it may be properly inspected, including but not limited to filling and yada, 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 and any costs associated with it, right? It's very clear. This is it the buyer, is it the seller who is responsible for paying for it to be de-winterized and re-winterized? And we need to know, because you want to have these inspections, so it's good to have this discussion up front. So then that way you're not lost when it's due diligence time and people are dragging their butts. But once again, oddly specific provision. So 6 things this additional provisions addendum does, 2 of them that you'll probably use more often than any others.